Families have a lot going on. Let Ollie help manage the mental load with new cognitive help supplements for everyone 4 and up, like delicious Lolly Focus Pops or Lolly Mellow Pops for kids. And for parents, try 3 new Brainy Chews to help you focus, chill out, or get energized. Find these cognitive health buddies for the whole fam at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Today on CityCast Madison. It's time for the Friday News Roundup. This week I'm joined by CityCast Madison's Hayley Sperling and Molly Stentz. President Joe Biden was in town to announce his new student debt relief program. Millions to clean up PFAS contamination is being held up at the state capitol. And the sunburst chairs at the Memorial Union Terrace are back for the season. It's Friday, April 12th. I'm Dylan Brogan, and here's what Madison's talking about. A, B, C. A, always. B, C, casting, podcasting. Always be casting. Always be casting. TGFR. The Great Friday Roundup. Are you interested? You better be, because it's that or walk. You podcaster, you hit the bricks. And joining me now is Hayley Sperling, our newsletter editor. Hello, Hayley.
Hello, Dylan. I'm ready to go. Ready to podcast.
Motivated. Also with us is the sheriff of this here podcast. It's Molly Stentz.
Hello. I never get your jokes, but I do find them funny.
Glenn Ross.
Sure.
That's pretty good. So I don't know if you guys know, as President Joe Biden was in town this week in Madison. He came all the way to Madison College to announce his big student debt forgiveness plan, version 2 or 3 at this point.
I don't know what was bigger news, if it was the president coming to town or if it was the eclipse being there too. But it's exciting. Version 2.
Yeah. So this was a big campaign promise for Joe Biden. And, his first attempt was knocked down by the Supreme Court last year. That would have provided like $400 billion in student debt relief. Supreme Court said, too expensive. You can't do that without congressional approval. So he's been trying to figure out other ways without Congress to do it. And he announced kind of the latest version of that. He is going to provide The Biden administration is going to provide relief to more than 30 million borrowers. These plans would fully eliminate accrued interest for 23 million borrowers and cancel the full amount of student debt for over 4 million borrowers and provide more than 10 billion borrowers with at least $5,000 in debt relief or more. So lots of numbers there, but he's trying to cancel as much student debt as he thinks he can get away with. Should note, he tried to do, this was a big campaign promise, right? And Supreme Court kind of stymied his first effort. Also really focused on accrued interest, right? The federal government, it is making money off providing these student loans. I think we should all consider that it's really about interest, at least the latest chunk of this plan that he rolled out.
I thought that was interesting too, because for the largest number of people in this plan, it doesn't actually eliminate all their debt, right? It just eliminates the ugliest part of the debt, right? The interest, the part that keeps getting bigger.
Yeah. And obviously this is targeted at young voters. I mean, he needs them in order to win. He promised this. I think there's been some frustration about this. So, coming to Madison's a big deal. He seemed to be in town for 3 or 4 minutes, and then he got right back on the plane. But interesting how we're seeing lots of political figures, from the vice president to the president to Trump, come in to Wisconsin pretty darn regularly.
He had to watch the eclipse from his plane. I don't know. But
as quick as the eclipse was here, he came and he went.
He remembers when the moon was formed. So
oh my God.
I think it's a little less of a...
Well, what was interesting too, though, on the note about young voters, some of the provisions, right, only kicked in and would cancel debt if you've been making payments for 20 years, right?
Yes, that was one element of it. Yes.
Yeah. So I was like, look at somebody remembering Gen X, maybe, throwing a bone, In
a way, that's all kind of near the young voter category, though, I guess.
Yeah. Millennials, too. Yeah.
Under 60 count as a young voter these days.
Well, he's going to need every one of them. So this plan isn't fully rolled out. It won't until next year. Their Department of Education is trying to do parts of it sooner, but it could very well face another legal challenge and be all for naught if the Supreme Court decides to take up a case and to knock it down. So there's some funny little reactions to the Biden coming to town just in general. Brandon Malley, we had him on the podcast once. He's the chair of the Republican Party of Dane County. He posted a photo on Twitter of like all these people at Library Mall. And he's like, protesters out in full force at UW-Madison Day to protest Biden. Well, of course, Biden was 5 miles away. And all these people at Library Mall were there to see the eclipse.
Had glasses on. Yeah.
I'm not really sure how he made that mistake. There were protesters at MATC, at Madison College, about 30 of them, who were protesting the Biden administration's support for Israel or military aid to Israel. It wasn't like there weren't protesters, but no, the thousands of people gathered on Library Mall were there to see the eclipse. So Brandon Malley got a big old pants on fire from PolitiFact for that one.
That's so funny to me. Because imagine just like walking up to Library Mall and seeing all these people and like everyone is clearly wearing eclipse glasses and staring at the sky. And your first thought is they're protesting the president, who's like not even in the vicinity.
They're looking for Air Force One.
Right.
Trump was not a supporter of those, the glasses that you wear to watch the eclipse.
So
safely.
True.
So maybe that was where the mistake was made. Yeah, I don't really get how you make that blunder. Also, U.S. Senate candidate, Republican Eric Hovde, who's running against Tammy Baldwin. He called it the Biden-Baldwin voting buying scheme. Biden came to Madison to buy votes.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
I mean,
bribery. Election year bribery.
Sure.
Unlike Mitt Romney and his Subway sandwiches. No. Sorry. Throwback.
Buying votes, giving people what they want is buying votes. And remember, we should say a lot of this new plan is about interest, right? So it's not like people aren't paying for college. It's about how much money the federal government is making off of it. So I think that's an important distinction. And I also for a few weeks now, Eric Hovde, I don't know, that mustache has made me question a lot of things in my life.
Are you going to shave your mustache? Does he make you self-conscious?
The trap he's put me in. What are you doing here, guy? I don't even think he looks that bad with it, but it just his stories are similar. What are you doing to me here?
No, I think it looks nice on him too. I think it looks nice on you. You should be able to wear a mustache without fear of political retribution or, taking sides.
Yeah, we both went to Madison East High School. We both went to UW. I guess the similarities, besides his enormous wealth and my relative poverty, are the only distinctions. So.
Your lack of development in Madison? I don't know. That could be a difference.
Oh, come on.
You don't have a multi-million-dollar home in California, Dylan.
I wasn't named Banker of the Year in Orange County, California. No, I wasn't.
That's a whole different pod episode.
All right. Well, before we get too far down the mustache road, let's take a quick break and we'll come back with some more important news.
Attorney Z. Usman with Usman Law in Madison has helped thousands of folks fight back against abusive debt collectors. And he wants to help you too. The average interest rate on credit cards today is 25%. So, for example, if you charge $10,000, you're really gonna owe a lot more than that in the end. If you only make minimum payments each month, you're gonna be paying that off for longer than you realize. You'll end up paying more in interest than you borrowed to begin with. And nobody's got time for that. But there's help. Attorney Usman can help you figure out how long it'll take to pay off your debts. Then he can help you find ways to pay them off sooner and for less. To learn the easiest way to pay things off, visit madtownlawyer.com to schedule a free call with Attorney Usman, the finance fixer.
This episode is brought to you by ShipStation. If you run an e-commerce business, you know how much work it takes to produce something great while dealing with complicated shipping issues. That's why over 130,000 companies have turned to ShipStation, an innovative tool that allows you to focus less on shipping and more on building your brand. With ShipStation, you can manage orders, label printing, reporting, and customer service on one easy-to-use dashboard. You'll reduce warehouse costs with reliable enterprise solutions and save thousands on shipping costs with discounts up to 89% off. Plus, you can effortlessly import orders from everywhere you sell online. So, turn your shipping challenges into opportunities for growth. Go to ShipStation.com and use code POD to sign up for your free 60-day trial. That's ShipStation.com, code POD.
So also happening this week, we have been talking about PFAS. What to do about PFAS. We love talking about PFAS. Maybe we just like saying PFAS. So PFAS are this class of chemicals that we call forever chemicals, right? Because they don't readily break down in the environment and they're seemingly everywhere and they last seemingly forever. They're in our bodies, they're in our water. They come from manufactured products like, non-stick pans, Teflon. They're in coatings of fast food wrappers. They're in stain-resistant carpets, your Gore-Tex water-resistant jackets, the foam that we use in firefighting foam to put out fires at airports. Lots and lots of manufactured products, some of which are very important. They have PFAS in them. So what's the problem? Well, it gets in our water. They've been found in wells and water systems all over the state, including here in Madison, where we had to close a well and spend millions to install a filter to clean it up. So this is happening all over Wisconsin. What are we doing about it? Well, last year, state lawmakers passed a budget that included $125 million to deal with it. So cool. Problem solved, right?
Yeah. What do they spend the money on?
Time's up. Oh, nothing. Nothing's happened since then. Nothing. Why? Because lawmakers can't agree and the governor cannot agree on what to do and how to spend it. So Republicans have this bill that they floated because they've been really concerned about what they call like innocent landowners or farmers or people that they say could have PFAS contamination on their land. And they are worried that they're going to get like swept up in any kind of fines or penalties from the states or lawsuits. Any kind of like negative repercussions could happen to them if these toxic chemicals are found on their property. So Senator Eric Wimberger was like, under the current law, it doesn't matter how the property became polluted. So innocent landowners in the path of a pollution plume are treated the same as polluters, and they can have to pay millions of dollars for well testing and remediation and get fined. And so they had this bill that they're like, okay, we have to have some protections in place. But Governor Evers was like, no dice. Veto. Not happening. So he vetoed the bill this week. And here's what he said. Not so fast, guys. I will not sign legislation that has any chance of letting those who cause PFAS contamination off the hook for remediating their contamination. And I cannot accept the legislature's attempt to shift the responsibility and cost for cleaning up PFAS contamination to Wisconsin taxpayers rather than polluters. So he pulled out a bunch of provisions in the bill and was like, this is not going to fly. So some of the provisions of the Republican bill were, we will prohibit the DNR, right, our environmental enforcement agency, from actually like taking any action against the polluters as long as the DNR remediates problem areas at the DNR's expense.
It seems like you could find a way to solve this problem. Because if, like, let's say you are a farmer who didn't dump a bunch of PFAS everywhere, I'm sympathetic. That shouldn't be your problem. But there was a polluter at some point who did it.
Yeah. I mean, so environmental groups generally opposed this bill saying, here's the thing, like the DNR doesn't have this track record of like going after farmers. I mean, it could be argued the DNR does not have a robust enforcement history on a lot of environmental things in our state, particularly in the past decade. But environmental groups were basically saying, like, look, they don't have a track record of doing this, of like going after farmers and landowners where there was PFAS discovered. So this is maybe a straw man. That's what they were saying. You know, Evers was also objecting to provisions of the bill that would have required consent from landowners in order for the DNR to like come on your land and collect water samples for testing. Like if they were notified, like, we found contaminated land and we want to make sure we can determine how widespread the pollution is. And then there was also a provision about, could the state like disclose the results, like where they found pollution and how fast they could disclose it. So generally the governor was saying like, this bill errs way too much on the side of like private landowners and not enough on the side of the public. So denied.
And so what happens to the money now? Just nothing? Just sits there?
So the Joint Finance Committee, the state's budget committee, the people that control all the state money and have to decide to authorize it, Governor Evers is demanding that they meet. Like normally they kind of control their own schedule, right? But the governor's like, no, get your butts to Madison, come up with a plan, figure out how we're going to spend this money and approve it because it's already been earmarked. Everybody already signed off on it. Legislature wrote it into the budget. And, you know, as I remember, a lot of them took credit for that. Like, look, we're solving the problem. We set aside the money. Woo woo. And the governor's like, signed. Woo woo. And everybody's like, great. Woo woo. And then crickets, 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 crickets. Nothing has actually happened with the money. So that brings us to today. So next week, the governor wants Joint Finance to meet and come up with a plan.
So they are meeting though? Like,
well, do they do what the governor says? I cannot predict that. But that's what the governor does have the power to call them into meeting. We've seen, you know, in the past where he's ordered the legislature to come into session and they're like, cool, we're here. Gavel in, gavel out. You know, so who's to say? Stay tuned to next week's Friday Roundup for a follow-up. That's what I get.
I hate those like gavel in, gavel out sessions. Like as a voter, it's just kind of the biggest slap in the face. It's like, you guys just don't care. But I would love someone to solve this PFAS problem. That'd be lovely. And it's an issue that's happening around the state too. But it's like, how do we solve this? Because we just saw in Wausau how their mayor spent a bunch of money trying to fix the PFAS problem, installed this new filter, like did it, like cool, we have it. And then like people's water bills went up and then she got voted out of office. So it's like, it's a losing battle. It's so hard. But I mean, water is such a big part of everything in the Midwest and here. But also I've got some good water news if y'all are interested in hearing that. Next week, it's Terrace time. Well, it's almost Terrace time. The iconic yellow, green, and orange chairs and tables will be back at Memorial Union next week. Yay. Terrace season officially kicks off on April 17th. And to celebrate, the Wisconsin Union is throwing a party. Of course, why not? So it takes lots and lots of people to put out all these chairs. Crews will start putting out all these chairs. There's more than 2,000 of them the morning of the 17th. And festivities will kick off right around 4 p.m. at Memorial Union. So you can expect DJs, an appearance from Bucky.
The Bucky Badger?
Yes, the Bucky Buckingham U Badger. The U stands for nothing, if you didn't know that. He'll be there in the flesh, so we can go say hi. He'll be there, and you can get free brats and drinks while supplies last. And I think this is pretty much the only time you are ever going to get a freebie at the Terrace in the form of, you know, brats or drinks, because normally that stuff will cost you an arm and a leg. So take advantage of it while you can.
Man, there's something about those brats. I don't even like how much I like them.
I know. Well, they're lovely. It's just something about the whole aura of the situation. It's just you're eating a brat by the lake and you're drinking a beer out of a pitcher and everyone's happy and the breeze is going and There's no dogs allowed, but you can see dogs on the pier, and it's a very nice place. Molly, you're shaking your head. Do you wish that they had dogs on the terrace?
I was like, this sounds like your happy place. And then you were like, no dogs allowed. And I was like, oh, wah, wah, wah.
It is a bummer. I really do wish that they could have dogs on the terrace. I could see how quickly that would like devolve into chaos, though. But it would be fun. It would be so fun. And I mean, I guess you can have dogs like by the lake, so it's fine.
Man, and these chairs, though, they've taken on a huge significance, haven't they? Just in general.
These chairs, I mean, the chairs and the terrace have become the quintessential Madison spot. And they are just like picturesque. When people talk about Madison, they're like, you have to go to the Union and you have to experience these chairs by the lake. And it's like, what's so special about these chairs? They're not super comfortable. Some of them have arms, some of them don't. I like the ones without arms. I think they're a little bit more comfy that way. They look cool, I guess. They come in 3 different colors: yellow, green, and orange. Specifically those 3 colors, because those are the only colors that they have at the terrace. So you might go around town and you might see someone with like a red terrace chair in their yard. Well, that's how you know that person actually purchased a terrace chair, because the Union does have them available to buy online, and you can only buy them in red. So I guess it's like a school spirit type thing. And it's to figure out, like, did you acquire this chair legally or under the cover of darkness?
I didn't quite get the UW Police Department's like amnesty program if you bring it back like 20 years later.
Yeah.
Like there was someone's like, oh, look at this nice woman. Her kids guilted her into bringing it back. It's throw the book at her. What's the point?
Well, so stealing terrace chairs, like it used to be, I guess, like a really big problem. And so now like UWPD, they have like more security in place, I guess, to deal with the stolen chairs. And I guess the big stories, like you mentioned, that we've seen within the past couple of years are people who stole the chairs and then feel bad about it 30 years later. And they're like, I'm going to bring it back. And it's like, why? I think you did it. Keep it. I'm pro like reaping the benefits of your own actions. Like if you got that chair, I've seen plenty of non-red terrace chairs around this town, and I'm not ratting anyone out. You can trust me.
Yeah, I think that was their point, was like, we know there are more of you out there. Bring them back. No questions asked. Just leave them on the terrace. You know? I think that was the point. Because it was like, oh, bring them back and get prosecuted? Yeah, maybe no thanks, you know?
Prosecuted, a little ticket. That's fine. I want to know, how do you actually steal it? Like, usually it's crowded there. I mean, like, it's very, I mean, it has to be like a real heist like situation. Like,
well, I think
what do you dress it up? Like, I'm just moving some laundry. Like, or maybe they do it by boat.
Ooh, a boat heist. I love a boat heist. But
first,
I mean, I think people would come in at night and like grab the chairs and run. And that was kind of it. And now they've got, like I said, nighttime security to watch these things. I mean, if there's one thing that people on the UW campus like to do, it's steal stuff that's like just out there. You know how UW does the whole like fill the hill with their plastic flamingos and whatnot. There used to be a really big problem with people stealing the flamingos. And so now they have like flamingo guards who are out there who stand.
Really?
Yes, they stand on Bascom Hill and like watch people and make sure that they don't steal any of them, which is like kind of funny. I'm pretty sure they're volunteers.
You come out with 30 years of debt. I think you deserve one pink flamingo.
One flamingo and one terrace chair.
But one of those pink flamingos, I think we can, as taxpayers, cover that.
Well, like I said, you can legally acquire a terrace chair. The Union does have red ones for sale, full size, sit your whole butt down in them. They'll cost you though. It costs like $500. I think it's like $450 for an armless chair.
Wow.
And $490 for one with arms if that's your vibe. So yes, you can acquire them legally, or you can do crime. And like I said, I'm not gonna tell you which way to act.
Maybe that's like a deep cut of the Biden administration proposal. Not only debt forgiveness, But chair stealing amnesty, it could be
Chair
in there.
forgiveness.
I'm super against that. You do the crime. Anyway, that's a good place to stop. We're neutral on crime here at CityCast Madison.
Depending on the crime.
Depends. Depends.
Big caveat there.
Hayley Sperling, thank you so much for joining us today on the Roundup.
Thank you, Dylan.
And always a pleasure. Molly Stentz, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dylan.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Dylan Brogan. Bianca Martin is your host. We're produced by Phil Circus and Natalie Rivera. Molly Stentz is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Hayley Sperling is our newsletter editor. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to Madison Minutes. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who has been biding their time on subscribing to CityCast Madison? Come on. See you back here Monday morning with more news from around the city. Until then,